first thing that you should be doing when choosing a logo font is looking into the brand values and the brand personality. What is your brand all about? How does any visualization, any font align with the mission of your brand? The easiest way to do this is the personality sliders, which is a simple tool we use in workshops a lot. So this is an example of the brand personality slider, an exercise that we do with our clients to let them figure out what their brand should feel like. Should it be more elite or more mass appeal, more friendly or more like an authority, conventional or more rebellious? This of course does have great influence on the logo typefaces that you are choosing. Your brand personality helps you to limit the category of font that you are looking for. Serif fonts, for example, will make your brand look more classic, more traditional, more conservative, while sans serif fonts will help you achieve a more minimalist and more modern look. If you're choosing a slab serif font, your brand will look more rustic, more vintage, and a little bit more masculine. While on the other hand, if you are looking into a script, so a handwritten font, your brand will look a little bit more feminine, a little bit more ornate, a little bit more elegant. Or if you are really going for the proper handwritten, handmade thing, you will have a really cool, custom, casual, and approachable brand. Which brings us to tip number 2. Look at the industry expectations. Of course, before designing a logo, you should do some research. So take a look at your competitors, take a look at what is happening in the industry and what the standards are. Just compare an industry like, say, makeup, for example, high-class premium makeup brands. How do they look like? What type of typography are they choosing? Well, on the other hand, say kids brands, toys brands. What kind of typefaces are they choosing? What kind of fonts are they using? Do this research for your industry and figure out what the standards are, and then you can decide whether you want to comply with them. So pick a font that is aligned with your industry expectations, or if you want to be rebellious and break through the industry standards and do something completely different. This, of course, is your creative decision and completely up to you. Of course, not all fonts are suitable for logo creation, for brand creation. We'll come to the criteria in a second, but before we do this, we have tip number 3, and this is check out our list of good brand typography. I have assembled a list on the Human Deluxe Toolbox where you can find a list of very good free typefaces that are very suitable for brand creation. So make sure to click on the link in the description and check out the list of free brand fonts. If you want to have a logo with combined fonts, so if you want to have more than one font, make sure you limit yourself to a maximum of 2 typefaces. One typeface, the primary typeface, can be a little bit more fancy or a little bit more elaborate. It can reflect the personality of your brand and be a little bit more custom. The second typeface, should be a supporting typeface, and there you should put focus on legibility. So pick a font that is very readable, especially in small sizes. That is a great supporting font. Most likely this will be a sans serif font, something along the lines of Poppins, Proxima Nova, Circular, these type of typefaces. But of course, you can tell a story using multiple typefaces in your logo. This one I really like because it combines 2 completely opposite typefaces in a really subtle way. Once you look at it for a little bit longer, you get the idea. Which brings us to our next tip, space out typography. Logos, of course, need to be really sturdy and universal and need to be placed or used in different places by different people. So you will have at some point, let's be honest, very little control over how your logo is used, especially if the brand that you are designing it for becomes more and more successful. So you want to make sure now that the logo that you are creating, and especially the typeface, the font that you are choosing, is really sturdy and really readable. The easiest way to do that is by just making your logo really, really small or even a little bit blurry in your design tool of choice, and figure out how it would look like when you are using your logo in a very small space. Can you still read the brand name? That is an important question. There's a high art of kerning letters, of course. Kerning means changing the spacing between two letter pairs to make sure everything looks good and harmonious and reads well. Kerning can be a little bit tricky because once we are able to read a text, it's really tricky to figure out if the spacing is alright. So there is one little trick I learned in university, which is just taking the type and rotating it, which then will result in you not being able to read the text anymore and paying more attention to the space, to the gaps in between letters. This trick should help you kern out your logo just perfectly. So for our next tip, you probably have selected a typeface already, and I hope that you did not make the obvious mistake, which is choosing a quirky or fake handmade font. This is a great example of a typeface that is using both handwritten features and a fake texture. If you zoom in closely, you can see that the edges of the type look a little bit distressed, almost like they have been written on high texture paper, something like that. The issue that this brings is once we have names that, for example, have repeat letters, like here for our imaginary brand Essentiel, which sounds like a great makeup brand, doesn't it? But here you see that we repeat the small e and they all look the same. And it gets even worse when we have letter pairs like the double S or the double L here, which look exactly alike. Our next tip is not so much about the logo font itself, but how you use it in context, especially if you are using a letter for your logo symbol, say the first letter of your brand name. So this is an example of a brand of a logo that we created a while ago, and at some point in the design process we thought about using the symbol as a first letter just like that, which is very tempting because it looks cool at first, but then once you put it on people and you show it to some, you get insecurities about what does it mean. Is it Okiel first? What's the name of the company? So instead, what you want to be doing is having the full name of your brand written out in the proper logo type, in the proper word mark, and then have the symbol as a separate element like here to make very sure that people get that the brand's name is social first and not Oshel first. I hope you found this video helpful and you learned a little bit. In our next video, I will share some logo design tips from my experience as a graphic designer. So make sure you subscribe and of course, don't forget to check the logo font list in the description below. I am really looking forward to seeing you in the next one. Until then, bye.